All right, so Ryan's going to give us a little bit of an update on the Kentucky Senate race and Charles Booker. What's going on, Ryan?
So most of you who are watching this, if you're watching it after around 10 a.m. on what day is it, a Tuesday, you're probably going to be able to see a lot of vote numbers. But let's walk you through how some of those came out. We're doing this before those have come out. Right now, as we speak, the New York Times has Amy McGrath up by just a few thousand votes.
There we go.
But with less than 20% of the vote counted. Now, a lot of election nights have been confusing to people because it'll say 100% of precincts reporting. But the precincts that are reporting have only reported their election day numbers. And in Kentucky, the dominant method of voting was by mail-in. This creates a huge complication for the race in this way. The last debate was on June 3rd. Most important debate was June 3rd. Voting started June 8th. At that point, McGrath's internal polls show that she's significantly ahead of Cory Booker. She also had millions of dollars to spend on what's called a mail chase program.
Yeah.
And Democrats have been much better at mail chase programs recently than Republicans have, and it could be decisive in an interesting way in November. What it means is what it sounds like. You know who your supporters are. You reach out to your supporters. You make sure they request an absentee ballot, and then you chase them until they've actually submitted it. So on June 8th, the first day that you could turn in ballots, there was probably a flood of Amy McGrath ballots that went in. Mm-hmm. And we've seen some of this in numbers that have come out in the last few days. Let's put Hardin County up there from Joe Sonka. Sonka is actually won a Pulitzer Prize. He's kind of sort of a dean of the Kentucky Political Press Corps. He's been furloughed, which tells you, the state of the media that we're living in right now. So on Election Day, Booker beat McGrath in this county because of his surge and his turnout operation there, 50-33, a 17-point win.
Wow. Yeah.
This is exemplary of his hood to the holler campaign. Mm-hmm. His argument that I grew up in West Louisville, y'all grew up in the holler and the Appalachians, but we have the same problems. We have the same enemies. We have the same problems. Let's work together from the hood to the holler. By the time that caught on, he's beating McGrath. The problem is, it didn't catch on until a little bit later.
Right.
So when all of the mail-in votes were counted in Hardin County, she ended up winning by like 22 votes. Mm-hmm. Very close, which I think will typify how the whole state will go. It will be very close. But she made up 17 points when those early mail-in ballots came in. So it's all going to come down to probably Louisville and Lexington. Mm-hmm. So it looks like about 35% of the vote might end up coming from Louisville.
Wow.
He absolutely, blew the roof off of turnout.
Yes.
The huge question will be, in the early stages, what percentage was she winning? Because he won 80% of the vote in Louisville on Election Day. If he can hold that to around 65%, then he probably has enough to win. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it will depend on how she did in those early votes in Louisville and Lexington. Now, George Floyd, so Breonna Taylor killed in March. Protests start picking up, and that feeds into Booker's campaign. But they really take off after George Floyd is murdered at the end of May. And so by June 8th, you're starting to have this national movement. So the question is, was Amy McGrath's model, are the polls slow in picking up his surge? The answers out of places like Hardin County are no, that she was still doing well enough then, and her dominant $30 million that she had to spend.
Right.
A lot of it that she spent on mail is enough to beat her. To beat him. So we'll see. But we should know by noon today whether or not there's enough votes come out. But for Chuck Schumer, if he does win this, if he does drag Amy McGrath across the finish line, what a Pyrrhic victory it is.
Oh, truly.
Because she'll only have one because the buzzer sounded before the game was actually over.
Right.
And she happened to be ahead then, but then she lost as the game continued to be played.
I think no matter what happens, it's a huge shot at Schumer, and it's a big win. Really, even if Charles loses, he put his name so much on the map and so much dented the McGrath campaign. I really don't know if Schumer would ever make some mistake like this again. I mean, is he that arrogant? What do you think? Because he looks like a fool as it currently stands.
I would think that he would not go in this early again. He, according to a McGrath campaign aide from 2018 when she was running for the House, he called her after she won her primary for the House of Representatives and said, I want you running for Senate in 2020. That's how early he jumped in.
Right.
That's while people like Matt Jones were floating runs. Charles Booker was considering running. And so it's certainly showing him that he doesn't have the ability to kind of dictate terms like he might think he does.
Right.
And also, he's taking a huge hit with the progressive wing when he has to run for re-election in 2022. So I don't think he would do this in 2022 when he's concerned about
Very good point.
running for re-election.
We're definitely gonna watch that closely. Well, thanks for the update, Ryan, and we're gonna keep an eye out on Louisville and elsewhere. And if we have more results, we'll bring them to you tomorrow. Obviously, we have a Kentucky expert, just as much as Crystal, sitting next to me.
Not as much as Crystal.
No, not as much. But I luck out. It's cool. I'm learning a lot about Kentucky on this show. All right, next on Rising, Huffington Post senior reporter Zach Carter. He explains what the Supreme Court actually decided in this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau case when Rising continues.